Hey, Bastich B here for 64K and welcome to another episode of Top 10s.
Welcome to 64K hosted by Bastich B.
And welcome back. So today's top 10 is my personal favorite top 10 racing destruction games. This top 10 is kind of a companion piece to the first ever top 10 I did, the Commodore 64 racing game top 10, so you can check that one out if you haven't seen it already. This is the companion piece to that episode. So how do I define racing destruction games? I'm talking about games that involve racing, obviously a lot of shoot 'em up action, ramming guys off the road. So examples of games like Robe Losses or Spy Hunter and stuff like that. I think these games are different enough and add a lot of different elements to the gameplay, enough to warrant their own list. I didn't want to mix racing and racing destruction games because I feel they're just a little bit too different. The Commodore has a plethora of racing and racing destruction games, so I think it makes sense to make two different lists. So let's not waste any more time and let's start that countdown. We got Mean Streak by Mersoft, and that came out in 1987. If fast-paced frantic gameplay is your thing, then this is for you. You race your bike down this endless track called the Battle Track, which is a long-forgotten highway, which comprises of 5 levels of relentless action. The graphics are decent even though they have a Spectrum look to them, but the game moves at a cracking pace, blasting opponents with your machine guns and rockets, all the while ramming guys off the road, dodging debris and walls, and ramping up oil slicks and other dangers is a real challenge. This game is tough, but it's one of those games where if you can get into the zone, you can have a really fun time. The music is also by Matt Gray of the Last Ninja 2 fame, and it's a pretty good pumping SID track. A simultaneous 2-player option is also available, which doubles the chaos and will cause friendships to end in minutes. The game does lack a bit of variety, but I still recommend checking out this fast-paced, frantic action.
Number 9
is Robe Losses, the 1988 conversion by US Gold based on the 1986 Atari arcade game. This is a pretty decent version of the arcade game if you consider the C64's limits. It captures the essence of the arcade and it looks pretty good doing it. Your goal is to blast your way to each of the hub cities, with each one getting tougher and tougher to get to. Picking up fuel, blasting other guys and avoiding turrets and mines, and grabbing the cannon drop-off is just part of the fun. Compared to most racing destruction games, this is a pretty easy game to get into if you're new to the genre. So I would say it's a good starting point difficulty-wise. Graphics and animation are generally pretty good, even though things start to look all samey after a while, which you could honestly say about almost any game on this list anyway. It also sports a really catchy SID title track by David Whittaker, who did the music in Night Games and Ghostbusters 2. Overall though, it's a pretty good arcade conversion that's easy to get into, especially for rookies.
Number 8
And at 8 we got another arcade conversion, this time by Go, for Lead Storm based on the Capcom arcade game of the same name. 9 tracks of brutal difficulty await, and I mean this game is hard, and it's not going to be for everyone. But like Mean Streak, when you get to grips with it and understand that picking up those shields and fuel canisters is your #1 priority, then it does actually feel like you actually have a chance in this racing destruction gem. Smashing into dudes, ramping over broken bridges, getting attacked by UFOs and semis. It's just a crazy fast-paced romp through many very cool and varied levels that add new elements to your death with every track. Awesome fast colorful graphics and one of my favorite all-time Tim Follin SID tracks make this a must-play for the genre despite the brutal difficulty.
Number 7
We got Chase HQ 2 Special Criminal Investigation, released by Ocean in 1990, with Probe doing the programming duties this time around. I mention that because the original conversion of Chase HQ by Ocean is a tragic mess of a game. Fortunately, Probe got almost everything right with this one. Just like the original, you're tasked with taking out criminals on the road by any means necessary. 80s cop style. This time around, your partner can shoot out your car window and take out scum. You have a nitro booster and a bazooka upgrade at your disposal to take them out with. Cool intermission screens just like the arcade occur, giving you the rundown on the next perp between levels. The game has a really good sense of speed, and Probe are definitely using an enhanced version of their Turbo Outrun engine here. Music and sound effects do their job without being too memorable. Overall, a really well-made conversion, and a hard but satisfying experience is to be had.
Number 6.
We have Racing Destruction Set by Electronic Arts, which came out in 1985. This game is a customizer's dream. Make your own insane track, then to your heart's content. It's a massive game that delivers on both fronts, as a construction kit and as a great racing game. You also have the choice of playing this two ways, as a straight racing game or as a racing destruction game, which obviously has the added elements of laying landmines and oil slicks to wipe your opponent out. The game plays really well too, with the cars feeling like they actually have weight, and the ramping feels very realistic. Playing this in the two-player mode is an actual blast and is a highly recommended way of playing it. The graphics do lack detail and color, but it is an early game, and the insane amount of options more than make up for it.
Number 5.
We go back even further to the original Racing Destruction game on the C64, namely 1983's release of Burning Rubber by Colo Software. Again, this game may not look all that impressive now, but it's the pure addictiveness of the gameplay that has you saying to yourself, just one more try. And that's what makes this game gold. The racing is a fast-paced demolition derby, with you able to ram and smash cars off the road or into the sides of mountains, and at any point you can activate your turbo jump and boost over broken bridges, and if you land just right you can explode the car you land on. This game is just so much fun, and the crazy music just adds to its excellent first generation C64 retro charm. Don't let the simplistic graphics put you off. There's an excellent destruction game here just waiting to be played. We got our fourth arcade conversion for this list with Atari's Badlands, released in 1990 by Domark. The C64 had a lot of these single screen races, and it did them really well. You can think of Badlands as Super Off-Road or Super Sprint with rockets. Being a post-apocalyptic game, the demolition areas are broken down parts of cityscapes and therefore are filled with perils. The cars handle really well in this game, especially with the cool drifting aspect around corners, which makes racing on these deadly tracks a bit easier. Some racing games in this style, the cars can feel more like tanks, but they really got the physics right on this one. Ramping across broken bridges and blasting guys with rockets and upgrading your car between levels is really quite addictive. The arena graphics are a bit drab, but still do the job, and the sound effects and music by Matt Furness are pretty good, rounding out a really fun game in this racing style.
Number 3.
We have Live and Let Die by Domark, which was released in 1988 and is based on the Roger Moore's first James Bond movie of the same name. As soon as you start playing this, you're probably gonna think, this feels a lot like Buggy Boy. And you'll be right, it was programmed by the guys at Elite that did the cracking Buggy Boy. I always dismissed this game thinking it was licensed trash, but it's actually a great hidden gem game that really should be played. Gameplay involves you trying to blow up Mr. Big's drug operations just like the movie, and the whole game is a boat racing shoot 'em up, taking its cues from the boat chase sequence in the movie. Machine guns and rockets, ramping over stuff, sliding up walls to avoid obstacles. It's just a blast to play. It's pretty clear to me that this was definitely some other type of game that they had in development at the time, and they kind of just slapped the Bond license over it, because it's a really loose adaptation to say the least. The graphics are chunky and fast. Music and sound effects by Mark Cooksey are really quite good, and this game in my opinion is second only to License to Kill in terms of great Bond games on the C64.
Number 2.
We have Spy Hunter by US Gold, released in 1983 based on the excellent Bally Midway arcade game. Considering that this was a 1983 arcade conversion, I think they did an insanely good job of capturing the look and feel of the original, even with the slight differences. In the game, you play as a James Bond type dude taking out spy bad guys in your souped up car or boat. You can use machine guns and rockets and upgrade yourself. The graphics are simple but do the job well, and it's very satisfying smashing guys off the road or simply blasting them with your death boat. The Peter Gunn theme music complements the game extremely well, and I'm assuming it was inspired by the Blues Brothers movie that came out a year or two earlier. This game is simple but has a ton of little nuances that make playing it endless fun. Just load it up, kick back, and go with the flow. So before we check out the number one game, let's just check out a few honorable mentions that just didn't make the cut. First up here you got Overlander. This is a game made by Elite. Until I started making this list, I kind of forgot that Elite made so many racing games. I remembered some of the main ones, but I kind of forgot about this one. This is a pretty good racing destruction game. It's super difficult though. I know these other games on this list like Mean Streak and Lead Storm that are damn difficult. Somehow I managed to get in some sort of sync when playing those games after dying 5,000 times. This game I've never been able to get like that total sync going. That's not to say it's not a good game, it's probably just completely my lack of skill. But if you like all the other games on this list though, then you should definitely check out Overlander by Elite. And our second game here is called Fifth Gear. This is another sort of racing destruction game. I don't know how to describe this one. You're supposed to be in some sort of race. It's never felt like that when I played the game. It is super difficult. It's made by Houston Consultants. It came out in 1988. You can drive along, you shoot stuff up with your car, you see other cars along the way, helicopters try and blow you up, there's a whole bunch of stuff. You can go into garages and like upgrade your car. The racing aspect never really feels like it kicks in, it more feels like you're just trying to survive your way up the screen. So that's why it's not part of the racing destruction list. But it's pretty good, it's super hard, so if you're willing to take the chance of like breaking your joystick, then give Fifth Gear a go. So the third and final honorable mention is Marauder, also by Houston Consultants, another tough as nails game. This game the genre is a little bit of a mix-up, so that's why I've just put it here. The racing element is not really there, but you're in a Jeep and you go along and you blast stuff up. It has elements of racing destruction, not fully. I don't know whether I'll ever get a chance to mention this game ever again in any sort of list, so I thought I'd just throw it in here. You make your way up the screen very slowly, or that's the way you should play it, otherwise you die horribly. The game is really, really difficult. It's got nice graphics and sound. It's definitely a game worth trying out if you like the racing destruction genre. This game is not exactly that, but it has elements of it, so you should definitely check out Marauder by Houston.
And number 1 is...
And here it is, Turbocharged by System 3, released in 1991. This is my favorite racing destruction game on the C64. Not only does it combine blisteringly fast gameplay with excellent graphics and sound, it's also everything you could have ever hoped that the original Chase HQ conversion was going to be. This game is a much upgraded version of the driving segments from Vendetta, a System 3 game that was released a year earlier. This, however, is a fully fleshed out racing destruction game without the Last Ninja-esque sequences. From the opening movie type intro to the excellent ending, this game just screams high production values. Blasting other cars is extremely satisfying, and so is ramping over hills while mashing that turbo boost. The plot has you trying to stop a bunch of terrorists that have stolen a stockpile of missiles, and you chasing after their convoy and wiping them out one by one in the process. Helicopters and mines are just some of the problems, as well as alternate routes which can be taken outrun style. This game got really high scores back in the day, with Zap giving it a 96% sizzler. It's just a really great game in the genre, and I've always come back to it and enjoyed it every time I started up. A must-play game. And thanks for joining me, Bastich B at 64K. If you could like and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you next time. Cheers!